Hello everyone, and welcome to my Bold and Beautiful Today channel. Is Steffy of the Bold and the Beautiful going to get shot again? Now that Jacqueline McInnes Wood is set to give birth for the 5th time, Steffy from the Bold and the Beautiful will be leaving the canvas once more shortly, therefore there must be a cause for her to do so. Here comes Luna Nozawa from the Bold and the Beautiful. Steffy Forrester Finnegan was imprisoned by Luna Nozawa last summer just because she was too close to discovering that Luna had murdered Hollis and Tom Starr. Steffy is now her nasty stepmother, preventing her from dating her new father, John Finn Finnegan. Even Sheila Carter cannot persuade Luna that Steffy is the one person standing in her way of eternal happiness. Though even Sheila now wants her to give Steffy some leeway and refrain from pursuing her, Luna was certain she had Sheila on her side. Sheila is on high alert after hearing Luna remark that she wants to get rid of Steffy. She tells her insane granddaughter not to speak anything like that ever again. Sheila has put a lot of effort into changing her life, and she doesn't want Luna to sabotage everything. Luna has a firearm. Luna is looking at a picture of Steffy and is ready to buy a pistol, not to be put off by her grandmother. She cannot have her nasty stepmother obstructing her path. With her father, she must have a fantasy existence. She wants the same thing for herself after witnessing Finn treat Kelly Spencer like a daughter. As Luna prepares to get rid of Steffy, her jealousy erupts. Sheila shot Steffy last time around in 2022, which allowed McInnes Wood to take maternity leave. Luna now appears poised to pull the trigger and eject Steffy. Will Sheila attempt to atone for her transgressions by stepping in front of the bullet and demonstrating her transformation? Is Dr. Finn widowed by Luna? Viewers of The Bold and the Beautiful are aware of the strength of Steffy Forrester and Dr. John Finnegan's marriage. The popular pair has had to deal with Liam and Hope hurling themselves at them, Finn being shot, and Steffy being abducted. Shin might be nearing the end of his luck. Will Luna Nozawa be the last straw that ends their romance? Here are some spoilers for what will happen next on Bold and Beautiful. The numbered days of Queen Steffy. On BNB, Steffy Forrester's time is running out. Jacqueline McInnes Wood's pregnancy is well known, and she will shortly be taking maternity leave. Since there is no sign that TPTB has temporarily recast the part, they will need to provide an explanation for Queen Steffy's location. The previous time Steffy was pregnant, the creators of the CBS soap opera forced her to leave the country with Finn and the kids. However, her baby daddy, Liam Spencer, Scott Clifton, is near death right now, and the Forrester heiress would never abandon him as he fights cancer and counts down the days. He will undoubtedly want to spend his final days with his children, therefore Steffy shouldn't take their daughter away at this time. Leaving Jacqueline McInnes Wood? According to teasers for Bold and the Beautiful, the beloved character may be killed off in time for Wood's 5th pregnancy, shocking fans. Luna Nozawa will make it public this week that she intends to complete the task she began and permanently divorce her stepmother. Luna is ultimately upset because she desires a relationship with her biological father. To say dad problems would be an understatement. Steffy is keeping her from dating her father/cousin Finn, even though she has finally discovered him. Since Luna Nozawa has already imprisoned Steffy in a cage and held her as a captive, we know she is capable of murder. Will she kill her and leave Finn without a wife? The sound of the gunshot reverberated through the Cliff home with terrifying finality, seemingly shattering the meticulously crafted universe Finn had worked so hard to create. The air had been heavy with accusations and the desperate revealing of secrets only seconds before. As furious and protective as ever, Steffy had confronted Luna about the tampering of the paternity test, her rage palpable. Feeling trapped in a corner, Luna was overcome with terror, remorse, and the crushing weight of her mother Poppy's secret, the truth about her biological father, Bill Spencer. Everything Finn had given her, acceptance, a position in his family, and sincere concern that went beyond the initial uncertainty about her paternity, felt betrayed by the news. Luna was unable to suppress her panic when she saw Steffy, the personification of the life Finn loved, obviously challenging not only her behavior but also her very position in their society. The gun, possibly brought in a moment of inexplicable dread or misdirected self-defense against perceived dangers, was a blur, she hadn't planned it. The weapon fired in the frantic struggle, the frantic grasp. The effect was gruesomely genuine. Crimson blossomed horribly on Steffi's top as she slumped, a shriek ripped from her lips. Time stopped. With the weapon falling from her shaking fingers and her face a mask of complete shock and horror at what her own hand had done, Luna stood transfixed. The truth was terrible, unimaginable. Perhaps lured by the chaos or Steffi's cries, Finn arrived seconds later, and the scene was a slide into his worst nightmare. His wife, his children's mother and the love of his life, lay severely hurt, bleeding, and struggling to breathe. And Luna, the young woman he had supported, defended, and eventually accepted as his sister, was the one with the smoking gun and the cause of this destruction. In his core, the faith he had exhibited in her, despite Steffi's first misgivings, curdled into something poisonous and excruciating. Luna? No. His voice was filled with a visceral sorrow that went beyond shock. It was the sound of treachery tearing through his soul. It felt like he had told himself hideous falsehoods in all of his justifications for her innocence, his insistence on giving her the benefit of the doubt, and his faith in her innate goodness. He had endorsed her. He had taken her into their house, close to Steffy and his kids. No matter how strongly Steffi had voiced her worries, he had written them off as overprotectiveness or residual stress. Luna was the reason why Steffi's lifeblood was now dripping over the floor. With a hammer blow of sorrow, every sweet word he'd said to Luna and every wall he'd put up against Steffi came flooding back to him. He would stutter, "I trusted you. I defended you," his words laced with pain and rage, his whole attention on Steffi as he ran to her side, applying pressure, yelling for assistance, his medical background taking over amid the emotional turbulence. The overwhelming sense of obligation was oppressive. Although he hadn't fired the shot, he had made it possible. Where trust turned out to be disastrously misguided, he had trusted. He had neglected his most basic responsibility, which was to keep his family safe. It was unbearable to watch Steffi so exposed and severely hurt by someone he had claimed was secure. His remorse was a destructive, all-consuming guilt, not merely sadness. His faith in Luna's character had allowed him to risk Steffi's safety, her life, and he had lost in the most terrible way imaginable. Finn's world was diminished to the scary battle to keep Steffi alive and the crushing weight of his own mistaken trust after the Cliff House, which had previously been a haven, was turned into a crime scene. The ensuing storm would be unrelenting. Luna, overcome by her own unfathomable horror and remorse, would probably be jailed. Poppy's secrets would be eclipsed by her daughter's irrevocable conduct, shattering her. With his relationship to Luna now woven into the sad fabric, Bill Spencer would be thrown back into the center of the drama. The entire Forrester and Logan families, Ridge, Taylor, Brooke, and Hope, would tremble, united in their concern for Steffi and their rage at Luna and, possibly, Finn for bringing her so close. Finn's regret would be his nagging, tormenting companion as he stayed watch beside Steffi's hospital bed, reliving every exchange and choice that brought them to this point. His faith in Luna was not only betrayed, but it seemed like a grave mistake that cost the person he cared about the most everything. For Steffi, himself, and the family, the road to forgiveness would be a tortuously drawn-out and uncertain one, eternally marred by the sound of that gunshot and the terrible fallout from his misguided faith. Steffi Forrester has been through as much drama, peril, and heartache as the bold and the beautiful. Steffi, a strong fashion executive and the daughter of Taylor Hayes and Ridge Forrester, has seen sorrow before. However, some are speculating that Steffi might be in the crosshairs once more, literally, more than ever before. All indications lead to a potentially fatal confrontation that might represent a startling turn in the already explosive June plot, as tensions between her and a fast disintegrating Luna Nozawa are already rising. Steffi's prior violent encounters imply that the authors are preparing for another life-or-death scenario that might rock the Forrester clan, if history is any guide. Everyone's main concern is if Steffi would be shot once more. We need to look back at Steffi's background, particularly the horrific event in 2022 when she was shot by Sheila Carter, in order to comprehend why this notion is becoming more popular. Steffi was threatening to expose Sheila at the time after learning of her perverse role in undermining Brooke Logan's sobriety. Desperate and cornered, Sheila shot Steffy and her husband, Finn, doing the unimaginable. For months, the catastrophe altered Steffy's plotline and left her in a coma. She struggled with trauma, memory loss, and a newfound sense of caution in the aftermath, until now. In 2025, Steffy finds herself in a high-stakes battle with a lady whose emotional state seems dangerously unstable once more. The risk is made much more terrifying by Luna's descent, which is more unpredictable than Sheila's, who was previously known to be vicious. Once an apparently kind and driven new employee at Forrester Creations, Luna has gradually changed into a more malevolent person. Luna has become more unpredictable after enduring difficult paternity disclosures, professional pressure, and emotional blackmail from her mother Poppy. According to recent leaks, she feels that Steffy stands in the way of her happiness on both a personal and professional level. Luna is said to have sided with Sheila Carter, the woman who previously came dangerously close to killing Steffy, since she has a grudge and wants retribution. Fans are wondering if Luna is adopting Sheila's harsh ways as a result of this unholy alliance. With her now being referred to as armed and ready, many worry that the soap opera is setting up another gun-related climax that may endanger Steffy's life once more. The abrupt increase in Luna's conduct supports this idea. Her latest arguments with Steffy have escalated from verbal altercations to threats of extreme bodily harm. In addition to accusing Steffy of undermining her future, Luna has even made references to getting rid of her permanently. In addition to spoilers hinting at a deadly confrontation and a moment of no return, these foreboding remarks are not taken lightly in the B&B universe, and Luna's declining mental health and her developing bond with Sheila raise the possibility that she is already beyond reason. It wouldn't be shocking for Luna to believe that the only way to deal with her Steffy issue is through violence if Sheila is whispering in her ear. Steffy, who has always been a passionate defender of her family and business, is unaware of the depth of Luna's anger. She has shown worry over Luna's actions, although she has mostly written her off as emotionally immature rather than a real danger. This underestimate might be lethal. Although Steffy is renowned for her audacity and self-assurance, it is precisely this lack of fear that frequently gets her into trouble. We might witness a horrible recurrence of history if Luna surprises her, like Sheila did once. And this time, the emotional stakes are even higher because Finn might end up in the middle once more. The narrative symmetry that a shooting would offer is among the strongest arguments for thinking that one might be imminent. Steffy being the victim of assault once more, but this time by an unexpected person, would be a dramatic throwback to her previous near-death experience, and daytime soap operas enjoy a good full-circle moment. Additionally, it would make the characters in her immediate vicinity, especially Ridge, Finn, and possibly Liam, rethink their allegiances and values. Would this be the occasion that reunites Ridge and Brooke? Could Liam, who has been going through a lot lately, intervene to help Steffy in a way that rekindles past affections? The authors are aware of the limitless implications. Additionally, it's possible that Steffy is left fighting for her life after being shot, which would provide the kind of summer cliffhanger that soap operas love. Internal strife and love turmoil have already split the Forrester family, and Steffy's illness may be the turning point that mends or widens the rifts. Given his prior pain from Steffy's shooting, Finn would surely be devastated. If it were discovered that Sheila had influenced Luna, Finn and the Forresters would be even more furious, which might push her character arc into yet another downward spiral. Luna, meanwhile, would probably be demonized beyond repair, solidifying her position as a complete enemy. A more complex scenario, though, is that Steffy might not be shot, yet the threat might still exist. The show may build tension without committing to another hospitalization arc by having a near shoot, when Luna might raise a weapon but is stopped just in time. This would upset the balance of power while providing Steffy with a close escape. If the authors decide to pursue that path, it would reveal Luna's instability to the whole Forrester circle and possibly pave the way for a redemption story regarding her mental health. However, even a close call would reaffirm Steffy's traumatic past and the idea that danger constantly finds her. Despite this, some fans are optimistic that B&B won't resort to violence once more, claiming that Steffy deserves a plot that emphasizes stability and empowerment over victimization. However, it seems improbable that the writers would turn down the opportunity to put one of their main heroines at the center of an exciting, emotionally charged plot, especially during sweeps periods, given the dramatic highs that soap operas aim for. Furthermore, if historical patterns are any indication, Steffy's danger is a recipe for ratings gold. In conclusion, there are indications that Steffy faces a serious threat in the weeks ahead, even though it has not been proven that she will be shot again. Luna's unpredictable actions, her mounting anger, and her support for Sheila combine to make for a violent eruption. One thing is for sure, The Bold and the Beautiful is going to deliver another twist that will leave viewers speechless, regardless of whether the program pushes Steffy over the edge or takes her all the way to the edge. Is Steffy's luck finally running out, or will she survive another round? Keep an eye out, since danger is always a scene away in the world of B&B. Steffy's reality, a web of fear and remorse after Luna's threat. For Steffy Forrester, the air in Los Angeles, which is typically filled with ambition and brightness, felt infused with a different, darker force. It was a terrifying sense of personal peril, a primordial terror that gnawed at her instincts, rather than the typical commercial conflicts or sexual entanglements that afflicted the Forresters and Logans. Once seen as a sweet, naive young woman caught in a paternity storm, Luna Nozawa has experienced a horrific transformation. The crushing weight of her mother Poppy's lies and the ongoing fear of being exposed for the paternity test tampering seemed to exacerbate the revelation of her true parentage, which was Bill Spencer, a man whose own past was a tapestry of power struggles and brutality. Steffy had noticed the change early on because she was extremely protective of her family, her hard-won stability with Finn, and the heritage she protected. She had been alarmed, not simply cautious. Once filled with innocent bewilderment, Luna's eyes now glowed with a flinty resolution, a simmering wrath that periodically flared into something much more sinister. Steffy had often and loudly expressed her worries to Finn, Ridge, and anybody else who would listen. "She's unstable," Steffy had demanded, her voice tense with fear, having seen how Luna responded to stress. Finn, the eternal optimist and healer, had attempted to comfort her by saying, "That paternity secret, the mess with the test, it's broken something in her. She blames us. She blames me." Ridge, protective but maybe underestimating the severity of Luna's spiral, had advised caution but not outright worry, saying, "Steffy, she's just scared, overwhelmed. She needs support, not suspicion." Despite their good intentions, Steffy felt as though her intuition had been betrayed by their dismissal. She was aware. Every time Luna came close, every time those harsh eyes met hers across a room, she felt like the target was painted on her back. Steffy had every right to be worried about her safety since she was standing too near to Luna, and her instinct, sharpened by years of negotiating dangerous waters, told her that she was a grenade with the pin pulled. In the meantime, Luna felt trapped, helpless, and more justified in her anger. The world she believed to be familiar had fallen apart. It felt like a basic betrayal for Poppy to have lied about her father for her entire life. The stress of the paternity test fiasco, the anxiety of losing RJ, and the possibility of being seen as a phony by the family she so desperately desired to be a part of was heartbreaking. Steffy, too. Steffy became the center of all that suffering and anxiety. Steffy was not only protective to Luna, she was also the aggressor, the unrelenting investigator who was out to destroy the shaky foundation Luna was attempting to erect. Steffy felt like an existential threat because of her confrontations, accusations, and sheer presence. Luna viewed Steffy as the mastermind of her demise rather than as a protector of her family. The murmurs began, faint at first, then becoming more specific and icy. Luna began to express a dreadful conviction: Steffy had to be stopped. She was speaking to a devastated Poppy, or possibly a manipulating Sheila Carter, whose own chaotic influence could never be dismissed. Indefinitely. Luna would mutter, "She won't rest until she destroys me, Mom," her voice shaking with a terrifying intensity rather than fear. The vow, "I'll get the job done," wasn't just a word, it became a sinister mantra, a promise she made to herself in the silent, desperate hours. She knows about the test, she suspects about Bill, she won't let it go. She's going to take everything from me. I can't let that happen. I won't. It described a determination that had shifted from self-preservation to something much darker. Layers of trauma, bitterness, and a terrifyingly focused goal to destroy Steffy Forrester, the apparent cause of her suffering, were buried behind the lovely Luna. Steffy started taking precautions all the time. She was quite watchful. When she was in danger, she stayed away from being by herself. She made certain that the cliff house was constantly guarded. She confided in Liam, who instantly became protective after witnessing her sincere worry. With a worried expression on his face, he would insist, "Steffy, if you feel this strongly, we need to tell the police." However, Steffy hesitated, possibly because she was afraid of the controversy or because she was holding on to a hope that she was mistaken. "What do I say, Liam? That I think Luna looks at me funny? Finn thinks I'm overreacting. Ridge thinks I'm letting stress get to me." Her anger was apparent. Her own survival instincts were being gaslighted by the very people who ought to have been her strongest supporters. And yet the fear grew. With abrupt disappearances, cryptic comments overheard, and a disturbing peace that took the place of her prior fear when Steffy entered a room, Luna's behavior became increasingly unpredictable. The eerie silence before a storm was how it felt. Steffy took out his pepper spray. She mentally practiced escape routes. Her heart raced with every sudden sound and every shadow that stayed too long. It was the grim recognition of a predator surrounding its victim, not psychosis, that made her worry for her safety. Despite being whispered, Luna's promise seemed to reverberate in Steffy's very breath. When the time came, Luna's sense of a final, intolerable provocation was probably what caused the breaking point. Maybe Steffy threatened to expose Luna by presenting her with indisputable evidence of the test tampering. Luna's last hope of a regular life within the Spencer-Forrester family may have been dashed when she intercepted information indicating Steffy was preparing to tell the whole family about the Bill Spencer link. Whatever the trigger, Luna's tenuous sanity broke. From internal commitment to lethal action, the promise to get the job done changed. The horrific reality that transpired is more significant than the details of the deed, whether it was a confrontation at Forrester Creations, a terrible ambush at the abandoned beach home, or a horrifying incursion into the cliff home's purported haven. Despite her alertness, Steffy was confronted with the horrifying realization of her greatest nightmares. Luna fulfilled her sinister pledge, propelled by a whirlpool of suffering, treachery, and perverted rationalization. Chaos followed, with sirens blaring, frantic 911 calls, and the agonized cries of loved ones as they arrived on the scene. Luna's threat became horrifyingly true as Steffy, the lively, powerful matriarch, lay critically injured and battling for her life. The physical assault was reflected in the violence that exploded Finn's environment. A wound far deeper than any bullet or sword could have caused was the sight of Steffy, broken and bleeding. The indisputable fact that Steffy had been correct, however, was the secondary pain that threatened to engulf him in a sea of caustic remorse. All of her warnings, all of her cries for caution, all of her expressions of dread, all of which he had tactfully written off as stress or overprotectiveness, reverberated in his mind with devastating, accusing clarity. He would kneel next to Steffy, his medical skills battling with paralyzing dread, and the words, "I trusted her," would suffocate him, raw and shattered. "I defended her. I brought her into our lives, into our home." The idea that Luna, the young lady he had supported as his sister and who he had thought was just lost and in need of direction, was capable of this. It destroyed his core faith in his own judgment. Where menace was growing, he had sensed vulnerability. He had shown mercy to a storm that was brewing. He had vehemently disagreed with Steffy's intuition, claiming that Luna was unharmful, misinterpreted, and a victim of her situation. Now, the cruel evidence of his disastrous mistake was Steffy's blood, her life on the line. His remorse was an act of anguish rather than a passive emotion. Not only had he been mistaken, but by ignoring Steffy's anxieties and holding Luna near, he had purposefully contributed to the risk. He had lost everything because he had misjudged Luna's character and gambled Steffy's safety. Once a representation of their family and love, the Cliff House was now a crime scene, haunted by the ghost of his misguided trust. As he confronted the horrifying prospect that his unwillingness to believe his wife would result in her death, his regret like a cloak, heavy and stifling. Finn's universe was reduced to the torturous vigil by her hospital bed, plagued by the crushing weight of his own, horribly broken trust and the chilling echo of Steffy's disregarded warnings. Steffy's threat had turned into Luna's awful reality. Every life that was tied to them would be affected. Luna would be subject to the full force of the law, and she would probably realize what she had done too late, overcome by a different type of misery. Poppy's secrets would now be monstrously eclipsed by her daughter's irrevocable conduct, shattering her. With his biological ties to Luna adding a horrifying dimension to the tragedy, Bill Spencer would be thrown back into the center of the story. Fury and dread would fill Ridge and Taylor, their protective instinct storming back with a vengeance. Their initial, white-hot hatred would probably be directed towards Finn for his part in ignoring Steffy's warnings. Shock, anguish, and the frantic struggle for Steffy's survival would tear apart the entire intricate web of ties between Brooke, Hope, Thomas, and Liam. As a grim epitaph for the moment when blind trust collided with terrifying reality, the phrase "Luna vows to get the job done" would live on in their collective memory for all time. It left Steffy fighting for her life and Finn drowning in regret, knowing that the woman he loved most had always seen the danger coming.